So you're telling me Darth Vader was his father? And then Luke only has one hand? This is a travesty. How? How? Oh,
Wow.
what a sad turn.
Keeps changing.
I coached Pop Warner football for a couple of seasons, and one of them was just stellar. We had a terrific team, and one of the kids from that team went on to some success. Then I coached a team that was called the Loggers, and the coaches all had hats that had L's on them, and I didn't know what a curse that was because that was one of the more painful seasons of my life.
No, not a good year for the old Logs, huh?
No, we got rolled. And then we lost every game. And so they give the team a bowl game against an equal opponent, right? So we're playing another team that also hadn't won a game that season. So this was the battle of the winless for that one cherished victory.
Someone's O must go.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. That's beautiful. That should be on a T-shirt.
Yeah, I just made it
or a tattoo. I should get a tattoo.
Yeah.
So they won. We kept our O intact. And the parents were so mad at the coaching staff, including myself, that they chose to have a banquet without us. And it was really it was a dark season in my coaching career.
Well, I mean, the good thing about it though is that the Loggers got the #1 pick the next season, right? So,
yeah, I just wasn't there to coach them, right? Somebody else, yeah.
They're rebuilding without you. Okay, so let's really get into this. So you, for a living, you are a graphic designer, amongst other things, right? And you actually went to college and got a degree in graphic design?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, buddy, I don't do that much graphic design anymore.
Wow.
Almost none. Yeah.
But I mean, the work you do is heavily design based.
Of course. Yeah.
Your graphic design background goes into it.
Yeah. I love design.
Right.
And some of that is just like in my aesthetic now. And I couldn't, I couldn't make work without thinking about it to some degree. But yeah, I studied graphic design when I was at Arizona. Yeah.
Did you immediately start working in your field? Because I don't know anybody who works in an artistic field that actually started that from out of college or out of high school. Most of us got into it later after doing other things. What was your trajectory after you found out you weren't going to make it to the NFL? Where did you start with your graphic design career?
Yeah, excuse me. When I graduated, I needed some experience, and I had the opportunity to go interview and then got offered an internship. So this is post-graduation internship with a big design firm in Phoenix called Richardson and Richardson. And they had just finished, you see FedEx trucks and you see that FedEx logo? Well, Richardson and Richardson did that design back in the day.
Okay.
Okay. And so, because it was Federal Express before that, and they cleaned it up and prepped that identity. So I had an opportunity to go intern for them, but the internship was unpaid. And I was such a moron. That when they offered me the position, I was like, hey, I would love to take it, but I need to get paid. And she said, well, okay, thank you. So then what I did was I went on and I got a little deal. I was working for a HVAC distribution company, and I was doing a little project in their print and design department. And then I got offered a job doing that. And I worked at that for about 6 months. And pretty quick, I got offered a gig. I befriended the sales manager for the commercial division. We would talk about every day. He'd come by my desk, and it was conveniently located near the mailboxes, and he ended up offering me a sales job. So yeah, so my first real job was in sales.
You probably do well in sales. I imagine you didn't. I imagine it was your choice to leave a sales job and not the other way around. Because you strike me as someone, as I see you at conventions and stuff, you're a very good salesman.
I don't think I could have made it a long career because I'm just not made to for that kind of work. You know, having an office building, having like the cubicle, having, you know, I was going out, I was doing sales, outside sales. I was a sales engineer. I just don't think I was made for that kind of work. You know, my makeup, it didn't suit me. But that being said, I do feel like it gave me, yeah, some sales experience and some tools and some experience that really served me, you know, over the course of my life. One of the things I remember, I don't remember what the book was, but I remember reading a book, and one of the lines was that if you ever want to start your own business, you should have some sales experience. So I remember using that as some of the justification for why I should take the sales job.
Wow. Okay. That's a very mature decision. Right. And I guess it paid off because I'm the worst at sales. Anyone who's ever seen me at a show,
Oh boy,
it's a nightmare situation.
you're being a little critical. I think it's all smoke and mirrors and snake oil over there at the Cody table.
Right. The most I can do, the most I can bring myself to do is say hello to people when they walk by. And then I'll be like, feel free to look at anything you like or whatever. But I never interact past that. So either they ignore me, which happens most of the time, and they walk on, or they stop and flip through something. But as they're flipping through it, I know in my head I should continue conversing with them.
Mm.
How are they enjoying the show so far? What's their favorite part of the show? It's so disingenuous to me though, because I really don't care about this person's experience at this convention. So I feel like it's going to come off as a sales thing and not a genuine thing. But I see other people do that tactic and it generates sales for them. And so, but I just can't do it. But I feel like with you, God dang it, I feel like with you, that's actually genuine for the most part. You're a nice person. You want these people to have fun at that event. But then
I'm not a
you're
I'm
also
not a nice
selling
person.
you're also selling stuff to them. Whereas
I I like it. I like seeing people. I like that they're at my table. Like I think that's a nice thing that they came over, you know. And um, one of the things that's happened with this whole lockdown and all the shows going away is that I missed it. You know, I missed the whole. I
mm-hmm.
miss getting out. You know, I'm not. I know a lot of artists. There's some artists that are just really content just staying at home and grinding away. And while I feel put out too sometimes getting ready to go out for a show or getting on the road, um, once I'm there, you know, I like that part of it.
So you enjoy doing show. I enjoy doing shows too, but I assume they're for two different reasons. But you enjoy doing shows. You enjoy the travel.
Yeah.
You enjoy the aspect. You enjoy the setup, seeing people. Because previous to all the shutdown and stuff, you had kind of like a sort of a circuit going. So I'm sure you see the same people every year at the same shows. So you develop kind of, I guess, friendships and relationships that way. Yeah. I mean, I guess I've never, other than doing like the Phoenix show, I don't have a show that I do every year and year in and year out. So I don't get that experience. But I'm always excited to do shows, but I think it's more because I'm excited to go travel. But also I'm excited to see to do the con hangout, to see other peers and friends and, you know, have dinners and drinks and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess it's just it says something about me because I really don't even consider the experience that the attendee is having and whether they're having a good time.
Like it doesn't even cross your mind that the people that are coming to the show are having an experience. This doesn't occur to you as something that's going to happen.
I just don't want to have any responsibility to whether they have a good show or not. I don't want any of that on my shoulders.
Yes.
So I guess what I go out of my way to do is not make them have a bad experience. You know.
Right. Yes.
So that's why I will not bother somebody by saying by talk to them the whole time they're at my table. Because if I was on the other end of that, I don't want the person talking to me the whole time I'm flipping through their book or flipping through their portfolio. So I try to treat them as I would want to be treated. And I have moved on from tables. I have been like looking through an artist portfolio at a con, and he just wants to engage in conversation, or he or she wants to engage in conversation with me. And I will end my visit to their table early because I'm just not, that's not who I am.
A little too chatty.
Yeah. A little too chatty.
A little too chatty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think your ability to perceive kind of, what they kind of want or need, I know that depending on my perception of what the person at the table wants or needs there, I may turn it down or turn it up, if they want it. Some people just want to talk,
right.
And really there's no sale to be made. They just kind of, maybe they were interested in the art, but they're not going to buy. They just want to talk. And so let's talk, what's up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a genuinely like curious person. You like talking to people, to strangers.
I do. It's funny though. It's funny because I think that I like it at a show. I think because I'm sort of conditioned now to expect that's part of the reason why I'm going. That's part of the deal. But in real life, I don't know. I gotta be in the mood to chat up. The cashier. Are we gonna have a conversation? Sometimes I don't want to talk. I just want to get my bags and hit the road. I turn Ryan Cody on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like the whole. I turn into Bruce Banner, if you will. Yeah.
Right.
Boy.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So going into a show, is it something you have to gear yourself up for though? Every morning, because I know you treat these con days as work. They are work days. Don't get me wrong, but you really treat them as I got to be on today. I got to do whatever. So how do you get pumped up for that? Do you have to pump yourself up for it, or are you just the whole weekend you're ready to go?
No, I don't get pumped up for it. I just try to keep my powder dry, in the evening while you're out there hitting it hard and grinding until the wee hours. I got to get some sack time. That's when I'm getting ready for the day. Because when you're at a show and it kicks off at 10 and ends at 7, and I'm working the table for 9 straight hours. I don't have a helper with me. It's I need to have the juice to go 9 hours at the table. And that's a big ask, So really it's not so much about getting jazzed up. It's more about saving my energy.
See, that's a mature decision. I can't ever come up with. I'm always out until 2, and then I get up, and then I get up at 9, and then I rush over to the convention by 10. And I always look hungover, and I always look tired. But I can't at 8 or 9 o'clock when dinner's done. I can't just be like, no, I'm not going for drinks tonight, guys. I'm going to go back to my room and get some sleep. Right. But that could be it's starting to click that could be one of the reasons I'm not as successful at cons as you are. Because I'm always hungover and or drinking at the con. I assume you don't do that either.
Well, I might have a beer or two, but that's kind of where I reach the limit. But you're having a good time. I'm taking the show as this is, I'm here to work. I love seeing friends. You and I always run into each other and hang out and grab a burger or something. But I got to go back to work the next day. So, yeah.
Was it always like that? Because I'm trying to think when I first met you, it was when you were still doing comics and still selling comics at your table. So it wasn't the setup you've had for a couple of years now. Is that something you had to learn to do, or did it come natural, or did you switch it when you switched kind of your convention goals and your convention ideas? Were cons ever just fun for you? I'm just happy if people buy my comics and, doesn't matter if I make money, or was it always let's treat this as work, let's make the money?
Yeah. In the early days, it was obviously I wasn't in it for the money if I was selling comics. I was just, I was just trying to figure out how to get my books out to people, and I thought the Comic-Con was the place to do it. And I'm trying to remember, what that transition looked like to where I got serious about, obviously when I got into the poster art and started doing the art prints, that's when I started to see that, that I could, with those at a Comic-Con, I could actually make some some decent income, at a show. But I remember there was one year at Phoenix, and I've got a hazy recollection of we saw Daniel Davis one evening after the show, and we were headed out to dinner or out for a drink, and he was like, "No, I got work tomorrow. I got to go." And I think that was one of the things that kind of stuck with me was that approach that, while you guys go have a good time, I actually have a job to do. And I never wanted to be that religious about it, but I do need to go to work tomorrow. So have a good time,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just kind of evolved from there, I think.
Yeah. It is interesting how it's thought about. I mean, I need to find that sweet spot when and if cons ever come back. I need to really do find that sweet spot between it is work, because there's a lot of guys who will take commissions back to the hotel and they'll do their commissions at night. Like I've never been one to do that. If I have a commission, I'll just leave it half finished and do it the next day. So I guess it just depends how much, what I value. Do I value the social aspect more than coming home with a wad of money? Do I value my, I guess my peace of mind? Like if I had to sit there and give a pitch and there's a guy that we know at Phoenix who he pitches his book nonstop. He has a pitch for it, talks about it, sells a lot. But I think that would then for me, that's not the experience of the show that I want. So I need to find a sweet spot, because I do need to start making more money at shows to validate going to shows, especially shows where I have to pay for everything. If I have to pay for all my travel and hotel, I got to make that certain nut. And so maybe I got to cut back on staying up till 2 and focus more on like being a sales guy at my booth. But I don't want to hate myself at the end of the day for it. I don't want to be like, I'm a scumbag. Like I don't want to be that guy either.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come naturally to me the way it seems like it's natural to you, whether that's just learned behavior over repetition that you've accomplished, or if it's just you're that easy to talk to in those environments, because it seems more natural to you. It seems more organic.
Well, it may have been an organic evolution. I don't know. It probably felt like I was going to a series of dentist trips to kind of get that to where it is. And now we're at a place where I don't know when shows do come back. I don't know what that experience is going to be like. I don't know what the attendance is going to be like. I don't know when that's going to finally start to happen again. And so we're actually kind of in a time right now where like, what's my business model if this amount of my work, which was going to shows, is gone, because it all got wiped from the books. I mean, as this thing unfolded with COVID, it went March, April, and shows just tick, started getting canceled and postponed to the fall. And so I went through into early summer, into July, thinking I'm going to have a really busy fall, but this is all going to get made up probably pretty big time, because there may be a real appetite for shows again. Right. But, and then all those got canceled. So that being said, for me, I don't know where you are. I'm curious about what your thoughts are, because for me, I find myself now it is fall. It's October almost. And it's like, I think it's time for me to take a serious revisit to what my business plan is. Right.
So yeah, as you and I are talking today, we should have had a burger on Saturday together and a beer. But yeah, so before we get into current thing, let's just jump back real quick.
Okay.
When everything was going the way it was going, so let's say 2019 for you or 2018, how many shows were you doing a year?
I was doing around a dozen shows in a year.
So it was a significant portion of your work and your sales were shows based. Probably the majority of your sales are probably show based.
Well, no, I sell quite a bit of work online. And then I've got a big show. Well, it is another show, but it's not one that I work. I've got a big show locally here in Austin called the Blue Genie Art Bazaar. And that's a show that my work goes up, but I don't have to be there selling. They take care of all the retail.
Right.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, big chunk.
Right. So at least probably on average, let's average that one weekend a month. You're basically you're traveling, doing sales one weekend a month.
Right.
And so now, and I don't know, I don't know what the beginning of this year was like for you, but my first show was, I think, scheduled for like March or April. So all of my shows this year have been canceled. I haven't done a convention since August of 2019.
Yeah.
So I guess what are we going to do going forward? For me though, I'm a little luckier than you because very little of my income came from shows.
Right.
The hardest part with COVID and conventions for me was I had 2 shows in May scheduled. And usually that's like, I don't have to worry about how, June's rent, or I don't have to worry about like, I can make rent money in June at Phoenix Comic Con the weekend before June starts. And so all of a sudden June hit, and that was the first big hit for me, was like, oh, I'm going to miss out on maybe $1,000 or $2,000 or $1,500 this month that I normally would count on, for the last 5-6 years, I could count on that. And then for me personally, there was not necessarily a shutdown, but I didn't get paid for a month. I got for a month, all the invoices got stopped being paid on my main book. And that happened like in June. So I did go like 2 months and miss out on maybe $3,000 or more that I was expecting.
Yeah.
But then luckily publishing started back up again. So I got back on a schedule getting paid. So it hasn't really affected me too much, other than 2 like scary months at the beginning of COVID. And I only had like 4 shows scheduled this year, so that didn't really affect me. But as someone who, how's it going for you? Do you get refunds on the shows that you had already paid for? Did they roll those over to shows that may or may not happen next year?
They all offered either, or most of them. Some of them just automatically rolled them because then they explained that like we've spent the money, but others were like you had an option of a rollover or a refund. And while I think we're going to have shows come late spring next summer, because that's the earliest that I've got anything scheduled for an actual event at a convention center. Mm-hmm. Sitting right here. I'm done predicting the future. I'm no Nostradamus. I don't know what's going to happen.
I don't. Even if in my business, even if in my current situation, cons were super important to my way of life, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable. I would not feel comfortable doing a show like that. Like I was supposed to do a show in South Dakota, and they didn't cancel it till only like a couple months ago. But leading up to that, they were like, well, we're going to have 10 feet between every table, between every guest table, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's iffy because, it's South Dakota. It's not like a major metropolitan area. Glove up, mask up, keep my distance. It's a fun show. But there's 2 aspects to it. There's the aspect of I don't want to be part of something that's going to get people sick, and I don't want to get sick. But then I also don't want the optics to look bad either, because comics is such a small community and such an echo chamber of community that like, I don't want to be the guy who gets the reputation for like doing COVID cons and shit either. So I guess I'm lucky that I don't need that income really to survive. But again, it affects me a lot less than it affects you. But that's got to be scary too. Like when cons do start up, what are they going to have, like fucking 20 cons in a month? Because everyone's going to want their con to be the first con to come back. Like what? I don't know, man. It's.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. How does your the people that you talk to? How's it going around in your circles? Because I assume you might have a bigger circle than I do, as far as people who do conventions and people who sell at conventions.
No, I don't. I don't know. I haven't really discussed, this, certainly not recently about the shows. I know that there's the one show locally here that's going to happen.
I was going to ask.
over the holidays.
Right.
But that's more of a typical retail experience, you know,
Right.
and
So
so
they can limit how many people go in there and right.
yes. And so in that regard, it's not like a convention where you've got, you know, 25,000, 100,000 people rolling into a show and it's real densely dense. So that's different. But, you know, my own feeling about the shows is just that, you know, for me, I don't think it would be an appropriate response for me to expect things to go back to the way they were. Now, if they do go back, that's fine and that's great. But I may also, you know, just looking at my own interest and kind of what I want to do. Um, I do think I'm at a sort of a point where I'm looking, you know, maybe it's time to pivot. You know, maybe it's time for me to sort of evolve into the next iteration of what my work is going to be.
Right. Maybe this will be a blessing in disguise as something to push you out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Have you given any thought to what that is? I mean, have you made a conscious effort to try to like boost online sales this year? Is there any, have you attacked that in a different way, or is it just more like just being more, posting more and offering more, or have you, how do you attack this, Robert?
That's a great question. I've done a little bit additional promotion and advertising for the online site. But that, you know, that hasn't been the end all be all. I will say that you don't know about this. I started writing
exclusive
in the last spring. And I have some writing in the can. Now, I certainly don't see that as a money-making venture. I'm not relying on that, you know, to pay the mortgage and to feed the dog.
Right.
But creatively, like, you know, it looks like work to me and it feels like work. And so that's, you know, in that regard, it's pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, so what's COVID been like for you guys there? Like, what have you, if you're not, I mean, are you still, because for me, I've had a hard time, and I don't know if it's just like 2019 was a bad year, 2020 has been a bad year overall, like depression, anxiety, stuff like that. But I've had a hard time personally working during the shutdown. Like my Kickstarter's overdue. You know, I had plenty of time to do it. Like I said, I was shut down. We didn't quit working necessarily on the book I'm coloring for Image, but it slowed down. So I definitely had time to work, put it that way. And I didn't put all my effort into working, and it just seemed like I couldn't do it. Have you been working as much and stockpiling stuff, or is it like entertaining the dog and the kid has been a priority, or, you know, because people that I know who have young kids, it's much harder than my COVID has been. So what has your experience been like?
Well, it's funny because it's evolved, right? The COVID sort of slow motion shutdown and, you know, our reaction and response to it, it started pretty seriously in March, April, May. I mean, I don't know when we started wearing masks in earnest, but, you know, that didn't come until a ways into this whole thing unfolding. So for me, it's been sort of, you know, I remember in the early days of it, and in the early days of it, I listened to some podcasts and I heard Sam Harris talking to virologists, and I got pretty concerned about what was coming. And I thought it was going to be really serious, but little did I know just how prolonged it would be, you know. That being said, like, I remember doing like some house projects, you know, and thinking like, this is great. I've got time. I'm going to use this time to, you know, in the family's home because school is now virtual. And so, and I work out of my home studio, right? So I'm like doing home projects, and I'm not traveling for any shows. So now, you know, and I don't feel the urgency to figure out, how to replace that income, because it's, I'm fine, and shows are going to come back. So that's fine.
I don't know. I don't have any answers. I don't think anything needs to be forced, and especially not comic conventions. I think we can all do without those until they're safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Well,
mean, I like your idea that maybe now is the time to rethink the way we make our living, and how that fan interaction is either important or not important. The social interaction with that group of friends, right? Because they're different than my regular group of friends. I only see these guys on cons and stuff like that.
yeah.
The networking. I mean, I don't know how many jobs I get networking, but it doesn't hurt to sit there and network at cons and stuff like that. So I guess I miss that more than anything else, because I wasn't making that much money at shows the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that was the thing that I noticed in myself over the summer too, especially, was just how much I missed just the travel and the getting out and the action of, the social aspect of it. And so as long as this sort of pseudo shutdown persists, we all have to do whatever we're going to do to fill that for ourselves. I don't think people staying at home and, getting exacerbated mental illness, feeling, emotionally more and more, awful. I don't think that's actually a good outcome for this particular problem, you know. But like you, I'm not saying I have an answer. I'm saying we gotta figure out what to do individually for ourselves, to make it work. I didn't realize that this has become the COVID pod, hasn't it?
Well, what pod did you want it to become?
The Ryan Cody podcast,
Nobody wants that. They want the Rob Ozborne podcast.
Oh boy. Hey buddy.
Yeah.
How you doing?
All right. So the stuff that you're writing, is it geared towards you drawing it, or is it not even comics writing?
It's novels.
Is this something you've tried before? Because I've tried to write prose before, and then I always fall off of it, or I don't think I always on Scott and I's podcast, The Illustrious Gentleman. We always make fun. We always make fun of how easy it is to write. But then whenever I try to write, it's. I mean, I guess it's easy to write poorly, but it's not easy. It's not easy to write something that interests me. Like, I lose interest in my own shit because it's not written well enough. So has writing prose been something you've tried before, or is it just something new that you wanted to scratch that itch?
Well, you're right about comics writers. Quite an easy gig that is. Come on. I mean, every comic artist knows that. Yeah. They're just mailing it in and then going to the bar.
Yeah.
And then the artist has to actually do the work. Okay. That being said, I kid, because writing, takes some muscle. I tried years ago. I tried writing a Zango novel. Right. I tried taking my book, The Nearly Infamous Zango, and novelizing it. And I recently, or a few months ago, I looked at those pages and I was like, oh my God, the amount of like trying to find big fancy words. And, this was the most overworked rot.
Oh,
it was awful. It was quite awful.
Well, then maybe you should be a comic book writer if you like to over describe and overwork things.
I've got a bright future. I don't think it's in comics, but I've got a bright future.
Sure.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to write a novel, and I approached it, with my lunch pail in hand. I found that the times when I've had the most consistent productivity is when I've committed to a daily work outcome, right? Like, I've got a minimum here that I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit it every day, come hell or high water. And so, when I started writing 1,000 Steps, when I made 1,000 Steps, the mini comics, the first time, That was just in response to that I had just experienced some rejection, and I had to do something, but I also didn't have the stomach to, risk some long-term goal. So I had to make something every day or almost every day, you know. So I started writing with just a goal to write. It sort of evolved when I started writing, but it turned out that I was going to write about 1,200 words per day, a minimum, and I just started cranking, you know.
Yeah, I don't ever follow this advice, but I am most productive when I use that OCD to my advantage and I do time everything out. Like earlier this year, I had everything blocked out, like my entire day blocked out in like half-hour chunks, and it would be like write, no social media, just take a social media like break, and then check it for like a half hour, get off, that sort of thing. And I was fairly productive then, but it just got away from me. It's like I have two different schedules because I live in two different places. So it was like, it's hard. I would have to have one schedule for like Monday afternoon through Friday morning, and then a different schedule Friday morning through Monday morning. Like it just became kind of a pain. But yeah, so is that what you still like to do? Like, is that what you've done the last couple of years? Do you keep a strict work schedule? What's the secret to your success? Because you produce, for someone who doesn't draw comics, you seem to produce a lot of work.
Well, that might just be some of that comic book work ethic in there, because to make comics, you have to be really diligent and show up at the drawing table, I don't know about the last couple of years. I know that when I take on a project, and really decide to do something on the regular, that works for me. For example, I want to ask you kind of what I'll tell you a little bit more about what I've been doing, but
Okay.
I do want to ask you kind of when you had your most productive times where you felt the most creative, but consistently creative, not just like I'm waiting for the lightning to strike and it struck and that was a pretty good weekend, but like when you felt juicy for a month or 3 months or a year, whatever that looks like. I do wonder what's worked for you, because for me, I feel like when it comes to the creative stuff, the times when I've had the most output is when I approached it like I was working a construction job, and I took some of the exaltation of art out of it and made it just about like work. I'm doing the work, and I'm going to show up and do the work, and then I'm going to go through the scraps, because I know that everything I churn out isn't going to be good. It's not all going to be usable, but in there, something about that process of like, if I'm actually committed to writing, I start to get ideas during the day come to me that kind of stick, because I'm like, oh, that's useful for what I'm working on right now. Whereas when I'm inconsistent, that doesn't seem to be common,
Right.
But like about just over 2 years ago, I got into meditation. This was something that had interested me for a while, and I had put it off and put it off. And I finally sort of jumped in. And Sam Harris created this app, the Waking Up app. And so I had a tool to use. But my use of it was dodgy for a while. And then I got to a place where I decided, I really want to figure this out. And it's a practice. I want to have it be part of my routine. And when I do that, when I get to that point, which is this is my breaking point, and I'm either going to kind of get out, I'm going to get all the way in. And for me, that's a really important place, because when I decide to get all the way in is when it starts to really work for me. It feels good to do that.
Right.
And it's comforting to have that routine, to build on. It's also a bit of a pain in the ass. I mean, when you really commit to doing something, every day, it's also like a grind, not every day is jubilation when you're doing the dishes, but you do the dishes every day.
Right.
So like some days it's easy because I'm used to doing the dishes. And some days it's like, I don't feel like doing the dishes, but you do them anyway, you know?
Yeah.
If,
Yeah.
yeah. At
Yeah.
the end of it, you got a clean kitchen. You got a clean kitchen.
Yeah. So yeah, the way I've always been good at, it's this, my wife says it's because I'm stubborn and whatever, but I've always been good at like, if I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. So if I have a plan and almost like it can't just be a mental plan. Like I have to write it down, you know, like I have to have a schedule. Like there's no way in hell I'm getting up at 5 to do anything unless it's written down on a calendar somewhere that I'm supposed to be up at 5 so that I can, you know, have coffee and get to work by 5:30 or 6. So yeah, I don't know why I fall off of it. I think it's because I think this is what happens just like with me with dieting or me with anything else. I do it for a week and I see results and then I'm like, oh, well, I don't need the crutch of the schedule anymore. Like I act like it's already routine, but then one day it falls off and then it's not routine. Like, so when I was really saw results earlier this year, it was to the point where, like I said, social media was scheduled, chores were scheduled. You know, grocery visits were like, you know, 2-hour block to do my chores and go to the grocery store and get back. You know, it was so kind of, and then my mind just ticks that way. Like, oh, I got to get out of the store now because I got to get home by 10 so I can get back to work by 10:15, you know? And I guess there's part of it that can be exhausting, like you said. So maybe after a week of that, that's when I think I can relax because maybe part of my exhaustion is from that. But then once I fall all the way off. I don't know what it is. And like I said, it's like dieting. Like I'll do good on a diet for like 9-10 days. And then I'll have like my one bad day. And then it's just like, well, why, you know, I'll just have another bad day and then I'll get back on it on Tuesday. And then Tuesday comes around and I'm like, who starts something new on Tuesday? I'll wait till next Monday. And then, you know, by then it's like, I just want some French fries. So it's like,
right.
I don't forget the quote, and you might, for something to be routine, you got to do it for X amount of days in a row or something for it to become routine.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I ever hit that X amount of days. Like I'm too quick to pat myself on the back after like 3 good days that I'm ready to take a break.
Yeah. I think I'm sorry. I think that experience is pretty common, which is, you know, when I miss on the thing, or well, let's start by I think I've got this, and then you take a break from it, and that break starts to snowball, and then all those old feelings about like I'm not the guy that sticks to the diet or sticks to the workout or sticks to the work plan, you know, whatever that is. Right. I'm the guy that I eat the extra French fries because I'm going to get to this on Monday, and then it's too late. Like you're screwed.
Right.
You know, you're down the road. And so now you've got to rebuild the thing that was working for you before. And it's, you know, for me, it's like so dry. Like that chicken is so dry, that thing about like, I just got to go back to work again. But that's the only way to keep the wheels on the road in a way, you know? And I was thinking about this over the summer, which is if you scheduled your diversions as a part of your plan, right?
Right.
Like if I'm going to start that's why a cheat day and a diet, I think, is useful, is because you've got your escape built in to the schedule, but you've also got the return to the plan. And then down the road is your next cheat day. Like you've got that worked in so you know when you're going to be able to let off some steam and just relax.
Right.
And then you go back to it the next day.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, it's just like, I feel like, and it's all excuses, but I feel like I want to be flexible. So if like somebody needs something, one of the kids needs something or whatever, if I'm in a mood where like, oh, that's not in my schedule, then I'm going to be pissed the rest of the day because it threw off my whole schedule. And like I mentioned earlier, you know, I might only have, I think my youngest son turns 18 in like 6 months. So I might only have like 6 more months with him. So like if he's like, hey, you want to go skateboarding at like 3 p.m, I want to be able to drop everything and do that. But then that will also throw that day off. And then I'll just be like, well, yesterday was a waste. So, you know, I can't just rebound as quickly. Anything that takes me away from any task, it takes me forever to get back to that task. So a 5-minute unscheduled break to do something, I'm not coming right back and getting right back to work. I'm coming back and goofing off, to whereas if I never took that break, I would have worked for the next 2 hours. So I have to figure out a way to be flexible while on a schedule, while sort of limiting sort of outside diversions like social media and shit like that. Like you were saying earlier, like what gets me feeling like the most creative or whatever. And I don't really ever feel super creative, but I like you mentioned, I think about it as work. And when I just have background TV on, that's something I've seen before, or that will autoplay the next episode, and I have my browser closed and I've just have Photoshop open. Sometimes I shock myself at how much work I can get done in like 3 or 4 hours when I have zero thoughts in my head other than the work. But again, I know what I need to do to be successful in that way, but I just don't ever do it. Like I'll find myself looking through Netflix for a half hour, trying to find something to watch so I can then get to work. And then that doesn't ever work out. Like I'm too easily distracted. And most of the time it's because I don't want to work. I think that's my biggest thing is comics to me have always been work. I mean, I'm not laying pipe and I'm not, raking leaves and shit, but it's always been work to me. And I've never been a dude that loves to work. I don't think so. I think I have a good work ethic when I am working, but I would be one of these dudes that if I was independently wealthy, I would never work a day in my life. Like I wouldn't be one of these dudes who like wins the lottery and then stays at his job. Like, so it's like, yeah. I want to live a life of leisure, but I have no money.
But you wouldn't, when you win the lottery, you wouldn't then make your great American graphic novel. That wouldn't be your heart's content. No. Okay. No. Yeah. Hey, have you read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield?
I have not. I've heard of it. I actually heard it on another podcast. I heard the title at least on another podcast.
Highly recommend it. It's about this very topic, and he calls this thing resistance. And resistance with a capital R, this sort of all-encompassing anything that takes you away from the work of making your thing, whether it be writing your book or writing your play or, making your movie or whatever your creative endeavor is, drawing comics, whatever that thing is, and it's that challenge, I think, for creative people. Well, really for everybody. I mean, it's not just, anybody in any task, being a parent, whatever the thing is that you're working on. The things that pull you away from that, they don't go away. We have to battle those things every day, and they pop up in a different form. And you're either, we all screw up. I screw up all the time, but you're either, iron-willed on, I got to get in there and start doing the work, because if I don't, I know I won't do it, So you just got to get in there and suffer. And because not every day is going to be just a blissful day, at the blank page. Right. Most days aren't. I mean, when you're actually doing it, not just for the thrill of being an amateur, but you're actually trying to make something, and you got to show up and do the work every day. And we all struggle with it. But I mean, the things we're talking about, the muscle group and the plans and the effect of like making a deal with your son that, look, I love you and we're going to skate, but we got to skate in 3 hours, not in 5 minutes, because I got to work. Like, and I did the same thing. I rode bikes with my son all summer. I mean, it was the summer of COVID. Like, we're going for a bike ride. We're getting out and we're getting some fresh air. And so, right. I mean, I was doing it too, but how that right there is the whole nut. How do I get myself to do the thing that I want to do and that I intend to do every day?
Right. Yeah. How do I hit that goal setting a goal every day and hitting it? And that probably gives me more, I mean, the most fulfillment I probably get in work is trying to hit it, knowing what I need to do it that day and getting to that goal. You know, so if I need to color 4 pages, and then at the end of the 4th page, you know, I'm always like, oh, good, like I did it. The feeling of accomplishment is kind of worth all of it, you know. And then it's the other way. If I don't hit that goal, then I convince myself like, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll add a page onto tomorrow's, you know, schedule, and then, but the next thing you know, you're like 5 pages behind. Like it's
right.
It's fighting through. It's like like I'm tired, and I told myself I would work till midnight, but it's 9:30 and I don't want to start another page. So I'll just let that one slide. Like it's too much letting it slide and not fighting through. Cause if I was at a regular job, I wouldn't be able to just like take off 2.5 hours early and go home and go to bed. You know, so it's, you know, you know, even after like 12 years of this or 11 years of this, I'm still trying to treat it that it is a real job. I mean, it pays my bills, so it is a real job. I think I lean too much on the advantage of being able to make my own schedule. I think is sometimes a detriment to me.
Yeah, isn't that something, right? Well, when you are the boss, there's no boss looking over your shoulder.
Right.
Right. I mean, there may be a deadline looming.
Right.
But you've got the last say so, and you love the latitude, and yet the latitude bites you in the ass when you actually use it. Right. So you actually don't have, you have the perception of freedom, but you don't have freedom. You've already committed to the thing. So get back to it, you know?
Right. Yeah. And it is the same as like the accountability. Even though I'm mostly accountable to myself, there's multiple me's. So if I slack off today, then tomorrow Ryan has to pick up that slack. He's got to work harder because Tuesday Ryan wanted to start drinking at 4 p.m, you know, like it's
right.
Yeah. So it's, and I'm always surprised at how long I know what I got to do. I know what can make me successful or more successful. I know what to implement to do that, to reach those goals. And I don't know what it is. I just like, I don't know what it is. But it seems to be worse. And I think, I mean, I think COVID has something to do with it. Obviously it's a general depression in constant news cycle, constant yelling. Everyone's yelling.
You know, that's the other thing that's kind of comes very clear through this whole experience of the lockdown and you know, how we've seen, you know, businesses are closed, you know, places were closed. You know, you have some free time. Is that, how the hell are we actually going to take care of ourselves? You know, how are we going to make it so that so we feel all right? And every day, you know, we don't have the luxury now to be like, well, in 3 months, this will all be over. So then I can get back to it and I'll feel fine. No, bullshit. It may not be over in 3 months, you know? So how am I going to today and tomorrow and the next day, like actually feel well and right? And maybe some of that is like, I watch and pay attention less to the news now than I have in my adult life. And that's because it's just vomit on the internet. Like, it is not helping me. It's all meant to clickbait me into the next article. Like, not interested, don't care. Right. You know, like it may be sexy and I still want to like look, I want to look a little bit because you know, what's happening with the, you know, with the thing. Is there going to be football this fall? What's happening? But come on, like every time I get caught up in that. Yeah. It hurts me, right? Because then that stuff, I'm anxious about shit that does not impact my life at all. So I'm out.
Yeah, it is. It's a daily reassessment to where when the world was normal and everything was cruising along for most of us, it was easy to, it was easy to, like, if you had an off day, you could just not deal with yourself. It was just fine. You don't have, you know, whatever, write it off. But now every day has to be, you have to analyze yourself every day because that's all we have is each other right now, ourselves. Yeah. And that's troubling. Like last night, for example, I I told myself I'm just going to work. There's no way in hell I'm watching the debate. So that's a train wreck. I'm not watching it. So I didn't watch the debate. What I did was refresh Twitter every 20 seconds and watch other people's reactions to the debate. And then I'm like snapping at my kids, like, like
oh
my
my
kids.
gosh. Yeah.
The kids ask me a question. I'm like snapping at them,
Yeah.
and I'm like, they don't know the stressors I'm going through, and it's like, of course they don't, because they're not sitting there on Twitter getting stressed out about everything that they can't control. Like that's my favorite piece of advice to give my kids is like, you can't control it, so don't worry about it. And here I am, like, oh, what does this guy have to say? Like, what is my echo chamber? Because all they're doing is telling me what I want to hear.
Yes,
so I'm like,
of course.
But I didn't feel better at the end of those 2 hours of scrolling Twitter. I felt much, much worse.
I watched about 20 minutes of that debate, and I was like, that's enough. I'm good. Now I've got to recover from this. Like, it's a pig wrestling match. It's a pig wrestling match, and it was just a mess.
That's the vibe. So everyday self-evaluation is also something I'm not used to, that I need to get used to. All right. Well, any final thoughts, or any final questions, or any final nonsense?
I don't know. Are we wrapping it? I actually have another question that's sort of related to this. Do you do any journaling or daily writing stuff? No,
when I was getting on the diet and I was trying to get my schedule going, I did have like a doc where I could put in notes. So I put in what idea of what I ate, and then whether I did any exercise, how much work I did. For me, because I do consider it mostly work, so I don't really consider, like, I can sit and noodle all day on a project or whatever, but if I can't bill for that, then I consider it almost like a wasted day. Yeah. So I had a slot, like, how much work did I do? How much work could I bill for that day? And then like general notes at the bottom. And I actually found that, again, it's a thing I found healthy, but a thing that I didn't keep up with, partly because it was something that I had to stop and do. And I feel like I'm always moving, and to stop and take 5 minutes to fill that out, or, that sort of thing. So I never really journaled as an adult, though I've thought about it. And just like the meditation, I know these little things are like breathing exercises. Like, I know these things that I can do that I've fiddled with in the past that help me. And just for whatever reason, I just don't stick to it for whatever reason. Do you journal?
I do. I've experimented with journaling for my whole adult life. I read The Artist Way by, what's her name? Julia Cameron, years ago. Actually, funny story is that was part of what got me into comics. That's when I was still a salesman, and I started reading this book, The Artist Way, and it's also about, sort of everybody's journey to actually making whatever their art. And one of the aspects of her process is to take yourself on what she could, like, a weekly artist date. So you do something by yourself that you want to do just for fun. And one of my artist dates, it's like, what are you doing, dude? Right? Was after work. I'm wearing my little dress shirt and my trousers, my fancy dress pants and dress shoes, and I'm going, because I'm a salesman. But I went to Atomic Comics in Mesa, the old superstore. Right? Yeah. And I hadn't been reading comics, so this was at that time. So this was like an unusual voyage back to a comic store. And I got a stack of books, and then I went over to a coffee shop and I got me some sort of, mocha latte, something or other. And I sat there and read comics and drank my coffee, and it just like rekindled like how much I love comics, And so that was one of the steps towards making comics again. But I digress. You asked me about journaling, and the answer is, she had a thing in The Artist's Way about doing something called morning pages, where you write three pages longhand every morning, and that you just stream of consciousness, just start start the pen moving and don't stop till 3 pages are done, right? And that being said, not to get too long-winded about it, but I've experimented with a variety of ways of journaling, and have done it for long periods and then crashed and burned and gone months without journaling, but I've been back at it again, and I'm doing it in a very different way than I've ever done before. But the process, is one that's kind of working for me now. The way I'm doing it, I like it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm actually right next to my desk. I'm looking at a journal that I bought or somebody bought me that's just full of like podcast notes that I should have written more important things in.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely things I know that are beneficial to me that for some reason I can't pull the trigger on or I can't stick with. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's like a sign of in my older age, like a weakness or what. Because when I was younger, I used to do things just out of spite, just because people said I couldn't. My first wife at one point said she thought I was drinking too much. So I just stopped drinking for like 3 months just to prove a point. Yeah. And so it's like, I used to have this huge like mental fortitude of like a fuck you, I can do it if you say I can't do it or whatever. But there's no one telling me that I can't. Like, that's the thing. I don't have a antagonist telling me like, I bet you can't journal for a month, or I bet you can't like stick to this diet for a month. It's just me. And it's too easy to defeat me. Like I'm a weak opponent. I can easily defeat myself,
That's resistance. But the thing is you've still got that same character. And I bet you're overlooking some of the things that the victories that you're having ongoing, right? Like you're being real hard on yourself and real critical right now, but I'm sure there are a variety of things that you're doing well consistently, and you're just not remembering that because it's way easier to like be hard on yourself,
Yeah. And I feel like it's whenever I give myself a moment to reflect and be like, oh, I'm proud of myself with that or whatever, then I almost feel like that's like being weak. Like that's like I'm giving myself an easy win or whatever. So I don't know. Like I got to pay rent tomorrow. That'll be a win, I'll pat myself every time I could pay rent, and not punch a time clock. Like that's a win every month.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe I'll implement some of these ideas again and see how they go.
Well, that's the thing is I think it's like baby steps. Like, when you try to take on the whole enchilada, you got to break it down into that. Here's the one thing that I'm going to commit to doing. And then just hammer away at that. Yeah.
I agree.
What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've solved some big problems here today.
We stirred it up. This has been wild, Ryan. Yeah. Thank you for having me, man.
I didn't
know what to expect. I didn't know what this. Yeah.
Yeah. Normally I have like notes and stuff, and if I didn't have any notes today, so there'll be some editing required, but that's okay because that's a new skill I got to master, anyways.
Yeah. I was pretty squirrely at the start of it, so you've got some serious editing to do. For sure.
It's all right. Just more practice. I need to do it anyways.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, you look more like Will Arnett as every year goes by.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was doing the Lego Masters show. Did you see that one? Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, forget it.
No, I don't. Did you see it because of a child? Or do you just love Legos?
Well, both. I love Legos and I have a child.
Right.
Yeah, my son Race. Yeah. Dug that show. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I don't have to do any of that anymore.
Good for you.
Yeah. But I also don't spend any time with my kids. So that's.
Hey, you went skateboarding the other day.
That's pretty good. Sure. Why not?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. All right.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. Bye.